The radio crackled with static as General Rebecca Martinez pressed herself against the concrete barrier, enemy fire ricocheting inches from her position. 300 of her best soldiers trapped in an abandoned factory complex, surrounded by over 2,000 hostile forces closing in from every direction. The situation looked hopeless. But what the enemy didn't know was that Martinez had spent 15 years perfecting the art of turning impossible odds into crushing victories. And today, they were about to learn why she was called the Ghost Maker. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The morning had started like any other Tuesday in the war-torn region of Eastern Kavanaugh. General Rebecca Martinez stood at the Tactical Operations Center, reviewing intelligence reports that painted a grim picture across multiple fronts. At 38, she commanded the respect of every soldier under her command through a combination of tactical brilliance and an unwavering commitment to bringing her people home alive. Martinez had earned her stars the hard way. Born in Detroit, to a family where military service ran in the blood, she'd enlisted straight out of high school, working her way up through the ranks during some of the most challenging conflicts of the past 2 decades. Her specialty wasn't just conventional warfare. She had an almost supernatural ability to read terrain, anticipate enemy movements, and execute complex operations that seemed impossible on paper. The intelligence briefing that morning came from Captain Sarah Chun, her most trusted reconnaissance officer. Chun had been monitoring enemy communications for weeks, tracking the movements of a particularly dangerous faction known as the Red Serpent Coalition. This wasn't just another insurgent group. They were well-funded, professionally trained, and had been systematically eliminating military outposts across the region. "General, we've got a problem," Chun announced, spreading aerial photographs across the tactical table. "The Red Serpent Coalition has been moving equipment and personnel into the Blackwater Industrial Complex. Our satellite imagery shows they're establishing some kind of major staging area." Martinez studied the photographs carefully. The Blackwater Industrial Complex had been abandoned for over a decade, a sprawling network of factories, warehouses, and processing plants that covered nearly 4 square miles. The infrastructure was still intact, making it an ideal location for anyone wanting to establish a fortified position while remaining hidden from conventional surveillance. "How many are we looking at?" Martinez asked, her trained eye picking out details that others might miss. "Conservative estimate puts them at around 2,000 personnel, maybe more. They've got heavy equipment, armored vehicles, and what appears to be a significant weapons cache. Intelligence suggests they're planning something big, possibly a coordinated assault on our forward operating bases." The situation was more serious than initially assessed. The Red Serpent Coalition had never assembled this many fighters in one location before. Their typical strategy involved hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and disappearing before military forces could respond effectively. This concentration of forces suggested they were preparing for something unprecedented. Martinez called for an immediate strategy session with her senior staff. Major David Thompson, her operations officer, argued for a traditional approach: surround the complex with overwhelming force and demand surrender. Colonel Patricia Williams, commanding the Artillery Division, proposed a different strategy entirely: level the entire complex with concentrated bombardment. But Martinez saw something her colleagues missed. The Red Serpent Coalition wasn't just hiding at Blackwater, they were baiting a trap. The intelligence had been too easy to obtain, the enemy positions too obvious. Someone wanted the military to know exactly where they were located. "They want us to come," Martinez explained to her staff. "Think about it. When has the Red Serpent Coalition ever made themselves this visible? They're expecting us to respond with overwhelming force, and they've prepared accordingly." Lieutenant Colonel Michael Rodriguez, her intelligence chief, pulled up additional reconnaissance data. "General, we've identified what appears to be defensive positions throughout the complex. They've had weeks to prepare, maybe months. If we go in heavy, we'll be walking into a carefully constructed killing field." Martinez spent the next several hours studying every detail of the Blackwater Industrial Complex. She memorized the layout of buildings, identified potential choke points, and analyzed sight lines throughout the facility. Her approach to military strategy had always been methodical understanding, not just what the enemy was doing, but why they were doing it. The breakthrough came when she noticed something unusual in the reconnaissance photographs. The Red Serpent Coalition had established their primary positions in the central manufacturing buildings, but they'd left the outer perimeter relatively undefended. To most military planners, this would appear to be an oversight. But Martinez recognized it as the key component of an elaborate trap. "They're not expecting us to attack the perimeter," she realized. "They want us to focus on the center of the complex where they've concentrated their visible forces. But look at these positions." She pointed to several buildings that appeared empty. "Perfect ambush points. They'll let us advance into the complex, then close the trap behind us." The more Martinez studied the enemy positions, the more convinced she became that conventional tactics would result in catastrophic losses. The Red Serpent Coalition had chosen their battlefield carefully, preparing defensive positions that would maximize casualties among attacking forces while minimizing their own exposure. Her solution was characteristically unconventional. Instead of attacking with overwhelming force, Martinez decided to use the enemy's own trap against them. She would take a small elite force into the complex, not to destroy the Red Serpent Coalition, but to draw them out of their prepared positions. Plan required perfect timing and absolute trust between Martinez and her hand-picked team. She selected 300 of her most experienced soldiers, each one personally chosen for specific skills that would be crucial to the mission's success. These weren't just excellent fighters, they were individuals who could think independently. While working seamlessly as part of a larger operation, Sergeant First Class Amanda Foster commanded the Sniper Division, a collection of marksmen whose precision had become legendary among both friendly and enemy forces. Foster herself held records for long-distance accuracy that had never been officially acknowledged due to the classified nature of her work. Staff: Sergeant James Patterson led the demolitions team, specialists who could create destruction with surgical precision or eliminate obstacles that seemed insurmountable to conventional forces. Patterson's reputation for creative problem-solving had earned him respect throughout multiple branches of the military. Captain Robert Hayes commanded the communications specialists, ensuring that every element of the operation remained coordinated. Despite the complex, rapidly changing battlefield conditions they would inevitably face, but the most crucial element of Martinez's plan wasn't the soldiers she was taking into the complex. It was the ones she was leaving behind. Hidden throughout the surrounding area, Martinez had positioned additional sniper teams with specific instructions that would only be revealed when the operation reached its critical phase. The night before the mission, Martinez met privately with each of her team leaders. She explained not just their individual responsibilities, but how each component of the operation depended on split-second timing and unwavering trust. "Tomorrow, we're going to walk into that complex knowing the enemy expects us," she told them. "They've prepared for every conventional response we might attempt, but they haven't prepared for what we're actually going to do." The morning of the operation dawned gray and overcast, with visibility limited by fog that had rolled in during the early hours. Martinez took this as a positive sign. Reduced visibility would work in favor of her carefully positioned sniper teams while creating challenges for the enemy's prepared defensive positions. As her team approached the Blackwater Industrial Complex, Martinez maintained constant communication with her hidden assets positioned throughout the surrounding terrain. These weren't just additional soldiers, they were the most skilled marksmen in her command, each one positioned with specific fields of fire that covered predetermined kill zones. The entry into the complex went exactly as Martinez had anticipated. The Red Serpent Coalition allowed her force to advance deep into the facility, past the outer buildings and into the central manufacturing area where their main positions were located. To outside observers, it would appear that Martinez had walked directly into an obvious trap, and that's exactly what she wanted them to think. The enemy's confidence was palpable as Martinez's team moved through the complex. Red Serpent Coalition fighters remained hidden in their prepared positions, waiting for the signal to spring their carefully constructed ambush. They had counted on military arrogance, the assumption that superior firepower could overcome any defensive position. But Martinez wasn't advancing blindly into their trap. Every step her team took had been calculated to position them for the counterattack that would follow. Her soldiers moved with practiced precision, each one aware of their role in the larger operation while maintaining the Wimto appearance of a conventional assault force. The first indication that something was wrong came when Martinez's team reached the central courtyard of the complex. Instead of immediately engaging the enemy positions they had identified, they took defensive positions that seemed almost random to casual observation. But each position had been selected to provide optimal fields of fire while minimizing exposure to the ambush points. The Red Serpent Coalition had prepared. It was then that the enemy commander made his fatal mistake. Confident that he had successfully trapped Martinez's force, he ordered his fighters to reveal their positions and begin the systematic elimination of what he believed were helpless targets. The ambush began with devastating effect. Red Serpent Coalition fighters emerged from concealed positions throughout the complex, their crossfire designed to eliminate Martinez's team within minutes. Heavy weapons opened up from elevated positions, while assault teams moved to close off any possible escape routes. For approximately 30 seconds, the plan worked exactly as the enemy commander had envisioned. Martinez's team appeared to be caught in a perfect kill zone, surrounded by superior numbers and caught in devastating crossfire. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. But those 30 seconds were all Martinez needed to confirm the location of every enemy position in the complex. Her soldiers had taken casualties, but they had also drawn out every hidden fighter the Red Serpent Coalition had positioned throughout the facility. It was at this moment that Martinez activated the second phase of her operation. Martinez pressed her back against a concrete pillar as bullets shredded the air where she had been standing moments before. The Red Serpent Coalition's ambush was unfolding with textbook precision, overlapping fields of fire, coordinated movement, and superior numbers, creating what should have been an insurmountable tactical advantage. Phantom Base, this is Wolverine Actual. Martinez spoke calmly into her radio despite the chaos erupting around her position. Execute Shadow Protocol. All units, mark your targets. The response came immediately from Captain Lisa Burke, positioned nearly 800 meters away on a hillside that offered commanding views of the industrial complex. Wolverine Actual, Phantom Base copies. Shadow teams are locked and loaded, awaiting your signal. What the Red Serpent Coalition couldn't see were the dozen sniper teams Martinez had positioned throughout the surrounding terrain 3 days earlier. These weren't conventional marksmen, they were ghost operators, specialists trained to remain invisible for extended periods, while maintaining perfect accuracy over impossible distances. Sergeant First Class Kevin Walsh lay motionless beneath a camouflaged hide constructed from industrial debris, his rifle trained on the eastern manufacturing building where enemy heavy weapons had just revealed their positions. Walsh had been in this exact spot for 72 hours, surviving on minimal water and field rations while tracking every movement in his assigned sector. 200 meters to his north, Staff Sergeant Jennifer Cole had established her position. Inside the ruins of a water tower that provided elevation advantage over the complex's central courtyard. Cole's specialty wasn't just long-distance shooting. She could calculate wind drift, temperature variations, and target movement with mathematical precision that bordered on supernatural. The genius of Martinez's strategy became apparent as the enemy ambush reached its peak intensity. Every Red Serpent Coalition fighter who emerged to engage her trapped force was unknowingly exposing themselves to her hidden sniper network. The more successful their ambush appeared, the more vulnerable they became to the counterstrike Martinez had orchestrated. Shadow teams report target acquisition. Brooks' voice crackled through the radio. Phantom 1 has 8 confirmed targets. Phantom 2 reports 6 hostiles in their sector. Phantom 3 is tracking enemy command personnel. Martinez smiled grimly as she watched enemy fighters repositioning to maximize their advantage. They were moving with confidence born of tactical superiority, unaware that each movement was being tracked by precision. Marksmen with clear fields of fire, the Red Serpent Coalition commander, a man known only as Scorpion, had positioned himself in the administrative building's upper floor, where he could observe the entire ambush. Through high-powered optics, he watched Martinez's team being systematically eliminated by his carefully positioned fighters. "Maintain fire discipline," Scorpion ordered through his communication system. "No survivors. Execute every hostile in the kill zone, then sweep for the wounded." But Scorpion's confidence began to waver when he noticed something unusual about the enemy's defensive positions. Instead of seeking cover from his ambush, Martinez's soldiers were maintaining positions that seemed tactically unsound. Areas with poor protection but excellent visibility of the surrounding complex. It was Staff Sergeant Cole who first noticed the enemy commander's position. From her elevated hide, she had a perfect line of sight to the administrative building's upper floor. Through her scope, she could see Scorpion directing the battle, completely unaware that he was being observed by one of the military's most skilled marksmen. "Phantom Base, Phantom 3 has eyes on enemy command," Cole reported. "Request permission to engage high-value target." Martinez checked her tactical display, confirming the positions of all enemy fighters who had revealed themselves during the ambush. The Red Serpent Coalition had committed nearly their entire force to eliminating what they believed was a trapped enemy unit. It was exactly what she had hoped for. "Negative, Phantom 3. Maintain observation. All shadow teams, prepare for synchronized engagement. Wait for my signal." The battle reached its critical moment when Scorpion ordered his reserve units to join the assault. These were the fighters he had kept hidden for exactly this situation, fresh troops who could move in to finish off any survivors from the initial ambush. As these additional enemy forces moved into position, they unknowingly completed the tactical picture Martinez needed. Every Red Serpent Coalition fighter in the complex was now exposed to her sniper network, their positions clearly marked and their movements tracked. Martinez waited until the enemy's assault reached maximum intensity before activating the second phase of her operation. Her trapped soldiers had taken casualties, but they had also drawn out every hidden position the Red Serpent Coalition had established throughout the complex. "All shadow teams, this is Wolverine Actual," Martinez announced. "Calmly, execute simultaneous engagement. Paint the sky." The counterstrike began with devastating precision. 12 high-powered rifles opened fire simultaneously from concealed positions around the complex's perimeter. Each shot had been calculated to eliminate specific targets, whose positions had been identified during the enemy's ambush. Staff Sergeant Cole's first shot took out the machine gun nest that had been pouring fire into Martinez's position. The .50 caliber round traveled 800 meters with surgical precision, eliminating the gunner and destroying the weapon system in a single impact. Sergeant Walsh engaged multiple targets in rapid succession, his training allowing him to acquire and eliminate enemy fighters faster than they could react to the sudden Change in battlefield dynamics. Within 15 seconds, he had eliminated 6 hostiles who had been confidently advancing on what they believed were helpless targets. The effect on Red Serpent Coalition morale was immediate and catastrophic. Fighters who had been advancing with tactical superiority suddenly found themselves under precision fire from unknown positions. The hunters had become the hunted in a matter of seconds. "What the hell is happening?" Scorpion screamed into his radio as his carefully orchestrated ambush disintegrated around him. "Where is that fire coming from? All units, report your positions." But his units were disappearing faster than they could respond. Martinez's sniper teams weren't just shooting, they were systematically eliminating enemy leadership, communications personnel, and heavy weapons operators. Each shot was calculated to maximize tactical impact while creating chaos in enemy ranks. Captain Burke coordinated the sniper assault from her elevated position, tracking enemy movements and directing fire where it would be most effective. Her role wasn't just communication, she was conducting a deadly symphony of precision, marksmanship that was turning the tide of battle. Phantom 4, engage the mortar team in Building 7. Phantom 6, I need suppression fire on the eastern approach. Phantom 2, enemy command is attempting to relocate, track, and eliminate. The Red Serpent Coalition's numerical advantage evaporated as Martinez's counter-ambush reached full intensity. Fighters who had been confidently eliminating trapped enemies suddenly found themselves exposed to devastating fire from multiple directions. But Martinez wasn't content to simply turn the tables on her attackers. The third phase of her operation involved her supposedly trapped ground force transforming from defensive to offensive posture. "Ground teams, initiate breakout maneuvers," Martinez ordered. "Advance by sections. Maintain pressure on enemy positions." Her soldiers, who had appeared helpless moments before, suddenly began advancing with coordinated precision. The casualties they had taken were real, but Martinez had positioned her team to minimize losses while maximizing the intelligence value of the enemy's ambush. Sergeant Foster's sniper division, which had been providing defensive fire, shifted to offensive support. These weren't the hidden marksmen who had initiated the counterstrike. These were precision shooters embedded with Martinez's ground force, capable of engaging targets at medium range with devastating accuracy. The combination of long-range sniper fire and advancing ground forces created a tactical nightmare for the remaining Red Serpent Coalition fighters. They couldn't retreat without exposing themselves to the hidden marksmen, but staying in their positions meant being overrun by Martinez's advancing soldiers. Scorpion realized his carefully planned ambush had become a disaster of unprecedented proportions. His force was being systematically destroyed by an enemy who had anticipated his every move and prepared accordingly. "All units, execute emergency withdrawal," he ordered desperately. "Fall back to secondary positions. Disengage immediately." But Martinez had anticipated this response as well. The routes Scorpion's fighters would use for withdrawal had been identified and covered by additional sniper teams, positioned specifically for this contingency. As Red Serpent Coalition fighters attempted to retreat, they discovered that every exit from the complex was covered by precision marksmen with clear fields of fire. The industrial facility that had seemed like the perfect location for an ambush had become an elaborate kill zone with no escape routes. Staff Sergeant Patricia Williams had positioned herself to cover the main access road, the most obvious withdrawal route for enemy forces. As vehicles attempted to flee the complex, Williams engaged with methodical precision, disabling engines and eliminating drivers with shots that demonstrated years of specialized training. The psychological impact on surviving enemy fighters was as devastating as the physical casualties. The Red Serpent Coalition had never encountered opposition that could anticipate their tactics and counter them with such overwhelming effectiveness. Martinez advanced through the complex methodically, her soldiers moving with practiced coordination to clear buildings and secure positions that had been held by enemy forces minutes before. The transformation from trapped victims to conquering force was complete. Wolverine actual to all shadow teams, Martinez announced. Maintain overwatch. We're not finished here yet. The battle had shifted decisively, but Martinez knew the Red Serpent Coalition still possessed the numerical advantage despite their tactical collapse. Scorpion would attempt to regroup his surviving forces and potentially call for reinforcements from other areas. As her ground forces secured the central area of the complex, Martinez began implementing the fourth phase of her Operation Intelligence Gathering. The Red Serpent Coalition hadn't just established a staging area at Blackwater. They had created a command and control center for operations throughout the region. Captain Chun, who had been monitoring enemy communications throughout the battle, reported significant intelligence discoveries. General, we've got access to their entire communication network. Equipment, personnel records, operational plans, everything. The intelligence windfall exceeded Martinez's most optimistic projections. The Red Serpent Coalition had been planning coordinated attacks on multiple military installations, operations that would have resulted in catastrophic losses if successfully executed. But even as her forces consolidated their victory, Martinez remained focused on the tactical situation. Scorpion had escaped the initial counterstrike and was attempting to organize surviving fighters for a renewed assault. All units maintain defensive positions, she ordered. This isn't over. They'll try to retake the complex before we can fully exploit what we've discovered here. Scorpion crouched behind the twisted remains of a fuel truck, his tactical vest torn and bloodied from shrapnel that had nearly ended his life 20 minutes earlier. The commander who had orchestrated what should have been a perfect ambush now found himself leading a desperate retreat with less than 400 survivors from his original force of 2,000. Sierra Base, this is Viper 1, he spoke urgently into his encrypted radio. We need immediate reinforcement at Grid 77 Alpha. The enemy has. A sniper's bullet shattered the radio in his hands, missing his head by inches and sending him diving for better cover. Even in retreat, the American marksmen were hunting his communications personnel with supernatural precision. 3 kilometers away, Martinez studied the tactical display that showed enemy movement patterns throughout the surrounding area. The intelligence her team had captured revealed something far more significant than a single staging area. The Red Serpent Coalition had established a network of interconnected bases designed to support a massive regional offensive. Captain Chun, what's our status on the communication intercepts? Martinez asked while simultaneously coordinating defensive positions throughout the complex. Chun looked up from her array of monitoring equipment, her face grave with the implications of what she'd discovered. General, they weren't just planning attacks on our forward bases. This was preparation for a coordinated assault on the capital city itself. We're looking at detailed plans for infrastructure sabotage, government facility attacks, and civilian targets. The scope of the Red Serpent Coalition's ambitions became clear as Chun continued her briefing. They had spent months infiltrating key positions throughout the region, establishing sleeper cells and stockpiling weapons for simultaneous strikes that would cripple governmental authority and military response capabilities. Martinez realized that defeating Scorpion's force at Blackwater was only the beginning. The intelligence they had captured made her unit the primary target for every Red Serpent Coalition operative in the region. Within hours, possibly less, they would face coordinated attacks from multiple directions as the enemy attempted to prevent this information from reaching higher command. Major Thompson, I need a complete assessment of our defensive capabilities, Martinez ordered. How long can we hold this position against sustained assault? Thompson studied the complex layout, calculating fields of fire, ammunition supplies, and the strategic value of various buildings. His analysis wasn't encouraging. "General, we've got excellent defensive positions, but we're looking at a maximum of 6 hours against determined assault. Our ammunition reserves are adequate for now, but if they bring heavy artillery or air support, we'll need extraction within 4 hours." But extraction wasn't a viable option. The nearest friendly forces were over 100 kilometers away, and requesting immediate backup would require revealing the intelligence breakthrough to potentially compromise communication channels. The Red Serpent Coalition had demonstrated sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities, making standard military communications risky. Martinez made a decision that would define the next phase of the operation. Instead of requesting extraction, she decided to use her current position as bait for a much larger trap. The enemy's desire to recapture the intelligence they had lost could be turned into a strategic opportunity. "All units, prepare for extended defensive operations," she announced. "We're going to hold this position and make them come to us. But we're not just surviving, we're hunting." The fourth phase of Martinez's strategy involved transforming the Blackwater Industrial Complex into a fortress designed to attract and eliminate Red Serpent Coalition forces from throughout the region. Every enemy unit that responded to Scorpion's calls for assistance would be drawn into a carefully constructed killing field. Staff Sergeant Cole had relocated to a new position in the complex's highest tower, a vantage point that provided oversight of approaches from all directions. Her role had evolved from precision marksman to battlefield conductor, coordinating sniper fire across multiple sectors while tracking enemy movement patterns. "Wolverine actual, I've got movement on the northern approach," Cole reported. "Looks like mechanized infantry, approximately company strength. They're moving in formation, suggesting coordination with other units." Martinez wasn't surprised. Scorpion's desperate radio calls had been intercepted, revealing his attempts to coordinate a multi-directional assault designed to overwhelm her defensive positions. What he didn't realize was that Martinez had been tracking these communications and preparing accordingly. The first test of her expanded defensive strategy came when an armored column approached from the eastern access road. These weren't the lightly equipped fighters her sniper teams had been engaging. This was a professional military unit with heavy weapons and coordinated tactics. Sergeant Walsh had repositioned to cover the eastern approach, his hide camouflaged among industrial equipment that provided both concealment and protection from counter-battery fire. As the armored column advanced, Walsh waited for the optimal moment to engage. The lead vehicle was a modified personnel carrier, equipped with heavy machine guns and reactive armor designed to defeat standard anti-tank weapons. Walsh's .50 caliber rifle wasn't designed to penetrate such protection directly, but his years of experience had taught him to identify vulnerable points in even the most heavily armored vehicles. His first shot disabled the lead vehicle's main gun, a precision strike that eliminated its primary offensive capability while leaving the crew alive to create confusion in enemy ranks. The second shot penetrated the engine compartment, creating mechanical failure that blocked the narrow access road for following vehicles. Within 30 seconds, Walsh had transformed an advancing armored column into a stationary target array, vulnerable to the coordinated fire of Martinez's defensive positions. The psychological impact was immediate. Professional soldiers, who had expected to overwhelm a trapped enemy force, suddenly found themselves caught in their own kill zone. Martinez's strategy extended beyond individual engagements. She was orchestrating a battlefield symphony designed to draw increasing numbers of enemy forces into predetermined kill zones while gathering intelligence on Red Serpent Coalition capabilities and organization. Captain Burke had established a forward observation post that allowed her to coordinate not just sniper fire, but also the indirect fire support Martinez had requested from distant artillery units. The combination of precision marksman fire and accurately placed artillery created a defensive network that could engage targets at any range. Wolverine actual, we've confirmed multiple axis approaches, Perk reported. The northern column is mechanized infantry. The eastern approach shows light armor, and I'm tracking what appears to be special operations teams attempting infiltration from the south. The multi-directional assault was exactly what Martinez had anticipated. Scorpion had convinced other Red Serpent Coalition commanders to commit their reserves to recapturing the Blackwater complex. Unknowingly feeding their forces into a tactical meat grinder, the southern approach presented unique challenges because the special operations teams were using infiltration tactics similar to those employed by Martinez's own forces. These weren't conventional soldiers, they were specialists, trained to operate independently in hostile territory. Staff Sergeant Jennifer Davis had taken responsibility for the southern sector, positioning herself where she could observe multiple infiltration routes while maintaining communication with supporting units. Davis specialized in counter-reconnaissance, the art of hunting other hunters. Through her scope, Davis tracked 3 separate teams attempting to approach the complex, using stealth and concealment techniques. Their movement patterns revealed professional training, but also a fatal assumption. They believed they were hunting trapped conventional forces rather than elite specialists who had anticipated their approach. Davis's first engagement eliminated the lead scout from the primary infiltration team, a single shot that demonstrated the futility of attempting stealth operations against opponents with superior positioning and equal skills. The psychological impact on the remaining infiltrators was devastating. They realized they were facing opposition that could detect and eliminate them despite their specialized training. Meanwhile, Scorpion had established a temporary command post in the ruins of a gas station approximately 2 kilometers from the complex. His surviving force was a mixture of original fighters and reinforcements from other regional units, creating coordination challenges as different groups attempted to work together under combat conditions. All units maintain pressure on multiple sectors, Scorpion ordered. They can't cover every approach simultaneously. Find their weak points and exploit them. But Scorpion's tactical assumptions were based on conventional defensive thinking. He expected Martinez to spread her forces thin, trying to cover all possible approaches, creating vulnerabilities that could be exploited. Instead, Martinez had created overlapping kill zones that became more effective as enemy forces committed to specific attack routes. The beauty of her defensive strategy became apparent as the coordinated assault reached full intensity. Every enemy unit that committed to attacking her position became vulnerable to precision fire from concealed marksmen, while also exposing their capabilities and organization to intelligence gathering. Captain Chun had established a comprehensive electronic warfare capability that intercepted enemy communications, tracked their coordination attempts, and identified command relationships between different units. This intelligence was as valuable as the physical defeat of attacking forces. General, we've mapped their entire communication network, Chun reported. I can identify unit commanders, track their reinforcement requests, and predict their next moves based on communication patterns. The intelligence breakthrough allowed Martinez to anticipate enemy actions before they were executed, creating a tactical advantage that compounded her already superior positioning. She wasn't just defeating attacks, she was predicting them. Northern assault reached its peak when the mechanized infantry attempted a coordinated advance supported by mortar fire and smoke screens. This was conventional military tactics executed by professional soldiers who understood the importance of combined arms coordination, but Martinez had positioned her defenses to turn these tactical advantages into liabilities. The smoke screens that should have concealed advancing infantry instead created defined kill zones where her marksmen knew enemy forces would appear. The mortar fire that should have suppressed her defensive positions had been anticipated and countered by previously coordinated artillery strikes. Staff Sergeant Williams had established multiple firing positions that allowed her to engage the Mechanized assault from unexpected angles. As enemy forces advanced through what they believed were covered approaches, Williams systematically eliminated key personnel while avoiding counterfire through constant position changes. The coordination between Martinez's ground forces and her sniper network reached its peak effectiveness during the northern assault. Every enemy movement was tracked by multiple observers, creating redundant targeting information that ensured no hostile force could approach undetected. All shadow teams, concentrate fire on Grid 44 Charlie, Martinez ordered. The enemy command element is attempting to coordinate an assault. Eliminate leadership personnel. The focused sniper fire on enemy command positions created immediate tactical chaos. Professional soldiers found themselves without coordination or clear objectives, as their leadership was systematically eliminated by precision. Marksmen they couldn't locate or counter. But the most significant development came when Chun intercepted communications revealing the Red Serpent Coalition's ultimate strategy. The attacks on Blackwater weren't just attempts to recapture intelligence. They were diversionary operations designed to mask a massive assault on the regional capital. "General, you need to hear this," Chun announced urgently. "They're using our situation here to draw attention away from their primary objective. While we're engaging their forces, other units are moving on Government Center Alpha." Martinez realized that her tactical victory was becoming a strategic problem. By successfully defending Blackwater and attracting enemy reinforcements, she had unknowingly assisted the Red Serpent Coalition's main operational objective. The situation required an immediate strategic decision that would determine not just the outcome of the current battle, but the success or failure of the enemy's entire regional offensive. Martinez stared at the tactical display, showing enemy movements toward Government Center Alpha while explosions echoed through the Blackwater complex around her position. The Red Serpent Coalition had executed a masterful deception, using their own losses as cover for their primary objective. Every minute she spent defending her position was another minute. Their main force advanced unopposed toward the regional capital. Captain Chun established secure communication with Central Command immediately, Martinez ordered while ducking as another mortar round impacted nearby. Priority Alpha encryption. They need to know what's coming. But Chun's attempts to establish contact revealed another layer of the enemy's sophisticated planning. "General, all primary communication channels are being jammed. They've got electronic warfare assets blocking our signals across multiple frequencies. I can't reach Central Command through conventional means." The situation had evolved beyond a tactical engagement into a strategic crisis that required immediate decision-making. Martinez could maintain her defensive position and continue eliminating Red Serpent Coalition forces, or she could risk everything on a desperate gamble to prevent the attack on Government Center Alpha. Her decision reflected 15 years of military experience and an intimate understanding of strategic priorities. "All units prepare for immediate extraction from defensive positions. We're going mobile." Major Thompson looked at her with barely concealed disbelief. "General, we've got perfect defensive positions here. Moving into open terrain against superior numbers is tactical suicide." Martinez understood Thompson's concerns, but she also recognized something her operations officer had missed. The intelligence they had captured revealed precise timing for the assault on Government Center Alpha. The Red Serpent Coalition had calculated their operations to coincide with shift changes in governmental security, creating maximum vulnerability during the attack. "Major, look at the timeline," Martinez explained while studying captured operational documents. "They're not just attacking the capital. They're timing it to coincide with the Regional Security Council meeting. Every senior government official will be in the same building when they strike." The implications were staggering. A successful attack during the Security Council meeting wouldn't just cause casualties. It would decapitate the entire regional government structure, creating chaos that could take months or years to restore. Martinez realized that her tactical victory at Blackwater was meaningless. If the Red Serpent Coalition achieved their strategic objective, she had to abandon her secure position and attempt something that appeared impossible: intercepting a mobile enemy force with superior numbers while operating without communication support. Staff Sergeant Cole, what's your assessment of enemy routes to Government Center Alpha? Martinez asked her senior marksman. Cole consulted her tactical maps and surveillance data collected during the battle. General, there are 3 viable approaches, but the northern route through Clearwater Valley offers the best combination of concealment and speed. If I were planning that assault, that's the route I'd choose. The northern route presented unique opportunities for interdiction. Clearwater Valley was a natural choke point that funneled traffic through a narrow corridor between elevated terrain. On both sides, a small force with proper positioning could potentially delay or halt a much larger enemy column. But Martinez's plan went beyond simple interdiction. She intended to use the same tactical principles that had proven successful at Blackwater, drawing enemy forces into predetermined kill zones while using their own advantages against them. All units were relocating to intercept the primary assault force, Martinez announced. This isn't a fighting withdrawal, this is a pursuit operation. We're going to beat them to their objective and be waiting when they arrive. The extraction from Blackwater required precise coordination under combat conditions. Scorpion's forces were maintaining pressure on multiple sectors, making any movement dangerous. Martinez's soldiers had to disengage from defensive positions while under fire, then execute a rapid movement to vehicles that would transport them to the interception point. Sergeant Foster's sniper teams provided overwatch during the extraction, their precision fire keeping enemy forces suppressed while Martinez's main units moved to their vehicles. The coordination between different elements demonstrated the training and trust that Martinez had developed with her hand-picked force. Shadow teams maintain position until ground elements are clear, Foster ordered. Then execute leapfrog withdrawal to secondary extraction points. The movement from Blackwater to Clearwater Valley required traveling through potentially hostile territory where Red Serpent Coalition forces might have established ambush positions. Martinez's convoy moved with tactical spacing and constant communication, ready to respond to contact from any direction. During the 40-minute journey, Captain Chun continued attempts to establish communication with higher headquarters. Her mobile electronic warfare suite eventually broke through the enemy jamming, but the news she received was worse than anticipated. General, I've got contact with Central Command, Chun reported grimly. Government Center Alpha is already under preliminary assault. Small arms fire reported at security checkpoints. The main attack is expected within the hour. Martinez realized they were racing against time that might have already run out. Even if they successfully intercepted the main Red Serpent Coalition force, advanced elements might already be in position to achieve their primary objectives. The convoy reached Clearwater Valley as the sun began setting, creating visibility conditions that favored defensive operations. Martinez positioned her vehicles to provide both transportation and fire support while her sniper teams established positions on the elevated terrain overlooking the valley approach. Staff Sergeant Williams had identified optimal firing positions that offered commanding views of the entire northern approach route. From her elevated hide, Williams could engage targets at distances exceeding 1,000 meters while remaining concealed from counterfire. Wolverine actual, I've got visual on the enemy column, Williams reported. Estimated 40 vehicles. Mixed composition. Looks like they've got heavy weapons and what appears to be specialized assault equipment. The Red Serpent Coalition convoy was larger and better equipped than intelligence estimates had suggested. They had armored personnel carriers, mobile artillery pieces, and vehicles modified for urban assault operations. This wasn't just an attack, it was a comprehensive invasion force. Martinez studied the enemy formation through her tactical optics. identifying vehicle types and probable unit organization. The convoy's composition revealed sophisticated planning that extended beyond the immediate assault on Government Center Alpha. They're not just planning to attack the government center, Martinez realized. Look at that equipment configuration. They're preparing for extended urban operations. This is an occupation force. The strategic implications became clear as Martinez analyzed the enemy's true intentions. The Red Serpent Coalition wasn't planning a single devastating attack. They intended to seize and hold the regional capital, establishing themselves as the legitimate governmental authority. Captain Burke had positioned her forward observation team, where they could coordinate supporting fires from the artillery units that had finally moved within range. The combination of sniper fire, direct fire weapons, and indirect artillery support created a layered defensive system designed to stop the enemy convoy. All units, enemy forces are entering the engagement area, Burke reported. Estimated time to optimal firing position is 3 minutes. Martinez waited until the enemy convoy was fully committed to the valley approach before initiating the ambush. The Red Serpent Coalition vehicles were moving with confidence, their commanders believing they faced no significant opposition between their current position and their objective. All units execute an ambush. Concentrate fire on lead and trail vehicles. Stop that column. The ambush began with devastating effectiveness. Williams' first shot disabled the lead vehicle's engine, bringing the entire convoy to a halt in the narrow valley corridor. Simultaneously, other sniper teams engaged vehicles throughout the formation, creating multiple points of breakdown that prevented coordinated response. Staff Sergeant Davis had positioned herself to engage the convoy's rear elements, preventing withdrawal while the main assault concentrated on the front of the formation. Her precision fire eliminated drivers and communications personnel, creating chaos in enemy ranks. But the Red Serpent Coalition forces weren't conventional troops who would panic under unexpected attack. These were professional soldiers who had trained for exactly this type of engagement. Within minutes of the initial ambush, they had established defensive positions and begun coordinated counterfire. The battle evolved into a complex engagement. As enemy forces attempted to break out of the kill zone, while Martinez's units maintained pressure from elevated positions. The Red Serpent Coalition had numerical superiority, but Martinez's forces held terrain advantage and superior positioning. Captain Hayes coordinated communications between all friendly elements, while simultaneously attempting to establish contact with reinforcements. His mobile communication suite had broken through most of the enemy jamming, allowing coordination with supporting units that were moving to assist. Wolverine Actual, I've got contact with Hammer Base, Hayes reported. Fast attack helicopters are en route, estimated arrival in 20 minutes. Artillery support is standing by for fire missions. The arrival of air support would change the tactical balance decisively, but Martinez realized 20 minutes might be too long. Elements of the Red Serpent Coalition convoy were already attempting to break contact and continue toward their objective using alternate routes. All sniper teams shift fire to escaping vehicles, Martinez ordered. Nothing gets through this valley, nothing. The coordination between Martinez's marksmen reached peak effectiveness as they engaged multiple targets simultaneously while preventing enemy forces from establishing effective counter-fire positions. Every Red Serpent Coalition attempt to organize resistance was met with precision fire that eliminated key personnel. Scorpion had been traveling with the convoy, his command vehicle positioned in the center of the formation where he believed it would be protected from ambush. As the engagement intensified, he realized his force was facing the same tactical genius that had destroyed his ambush at Blackwater. All units, this is Viper 1, Scorpion transmitted desperately. Execute emergency dispersal. Secondary objectives are authorized. Repeat, secondary objectives are authorized. Martinez intercepted Scorpion's transmission through Chun's electronic warfare equipment. The authorization of secondary objectives indicated backup plans designed to achieve strategic goals, even if the primary assault failed. "Captain Chun, what do we know about their secondary objectives?" Martinez demanded while coordinating fire on escaping enemy vehicles. Chun's analysis of captured intelligence revealed the terrifying scope of Red Serpent coalition planning. General, secondary objectives include infrastructure targets throughout the region. Power plants, communication centers, transportation hubs. They're prepared to cripple the entire governmental structure if they can't seize it directly. The realization that defeating the convoy wouldn't end the threat forced Martinez to expand her tactical thinking once again. Even total victory in Clearwater Valley wouldn't prevent catastrophic attacks on civilian infrastructure if other Red Serpent coalition units executed their backup plans. "Hammer Flight, this is Wolverine Actual," Martinez transmitted to the approaching helicopters. "We need immediate reconnaissance of all infrastructure targets in the region. Enemy forces may be moving on secondary objectives." The helicopter crews confirmed multiple suspicious movements throughout the region, indicating that the Red Serpent coalition had indeed activated backup plans as their primary assault collapsed. Martinez had won the tactical engagement, but faced a strategic challenge that extended far beyond the current battlefield. The final phase of the battle came when Scorpion attempted a desperate breakout with his remaining vehicles, gambling everything on reaching Government Center Alpha with whatever force he could preserve. His escape attempt brought him directly into the sights of Staff Sergeant Cole, who had been tracking his command vehicle throughout the engagement. Cole's shot was the culmination of 15 hours of continuous combat operations, a precision strike that ended Scorpion's command and leadership of Red Serpent coalition forces in the region. With their commander eliminated and their primary assault force destroyed, the remaining enemy units lost coordination and began surrendering or fleeing. As the sun set over Clearwater Valley, Martinez stood among the wreckage of the enemy convoy. Knowing that her tactical victory had prevented a catastrophic attack on the regional government, but she also understood that the Red Serpent coalition's sophisticated planning meant the threat would continue in other forms. "All units, consolidate positions and prepare for follow-up operations," Martinez ordered. "We've won this battle, but the war continues." The intelligence captured during the engagement revealed the full scope of Red Serpent coalition operations throughout multiple regions, providing information that would be crucial for future operations. Martinez's tactical brilliance had not only defeated a specific threat, but had also exposed an entire network of hostile operations. Captain Burke approached Martinez as helicopter crews began medical evacuations of wounded personnel from both sides. "General, Central Command is requesting immediate debrief. They want complete details of everything we've discovered." Martinez nodded, understanding that the intelligence gathered during their operations would be analyzed and acted upon by forces throughout the region. The Red Serpent Coalition's network would be systematically eliminated based on information captured during the battles at Blackwater and Clearwater Valley. "Tell Central Command we'll have a full report within the hour," Martinez replied. "And Burke, make sure they understand this was just the beginning. We've disrupted their operations, but we haven't eliminated the threat entirely." As medical helicopters evacuated casualties and logistics units began recovering equipment and intelligence materials, Martinez reflected on the complex series of engagements that had started with what appeared to be a simple ambush. Her ability to read tactical situations and anticipate enemy planning had prevented catastrophic losses of both military personnel and civilian leadership. The battles had demonstrated that modern warfare required not just tactical excellence, but strategic thinking that could adapt to rapidly changing conditions and enemy deception operations. Martinez's success came from her ability to see beyond immediate tactical concerns to understand the broader strategic implications of every engagement. 3 weeks after the destruction of Scorpion's convoy in Clearwater Valley, General Martinez found herself in a sterile briefing room at Central Command headquarters, surrounded by intelligence analysts, regional commanders, and officials whose faces she didn't recognize. The intelligence windfall from her operations had triggered the largest counter-terrorism investigation in the region's history. General Martinez, your tactical decisions prevented what our analysts now confirm would have been the complete collapse of regional governmental authority, announced Director Helen Ross from the Federal Intelligence Division. But the information you captured has revealed something far more extensive than anyone anticipated. The walls of the briefing room were covered with network analysis charts, surveillance photographs, and communication intercepts that painted a picture of Red Serpent Coalition operations spanning multiple countries. What had appeared to be a regional insurgency was actually part of an international network with sophisticated funding, training, and coordination capabilities. Dr. Amanda Foster, the senior intelligence analyst assigned to the Red Serpent Coalition investigation, activated a holographic display showing connection patterns between different operational cells. Generally, the communication intercepts Captain Chen obtained have allowed us to map their entire organizational structure. We're looking at over 300 active cells across 6 countries, all coordinating through encrypted channels we couldn't break until we captured their primary communication hub. Martinez studied the network diagram with growing concern. The Red Serpent Coalition's true scope exceeded anything she had encountered in 15 years of military service. They weren't just insurgents or terrorists, they were a parallel governmental structure preparing to replace legitimate authority across multiple regions. What's their ultimate objective? Martinez asked, though she suspected the answer would be worse than anything they had previously imagined. Director Ross exchanged glances with other officials before responding. Complete destabilization of democratic governments throughout the region, followed by installation of their own administrative structure. They call it the New Order Protocol. The attack on Government Center Alpha was scheduled to be the first of 17 simultaneous strikes across different countries. The revelation that Scorpion's assault was merely the opening move in a much larger operation fundamentally changed Martinez's understanding of what they had accomplished in Clearwater Valley. They hadn't just prevented a single attack, they had disrupted a coordinated international coup attempt. Dr. Foster continued her briefing with details that demonstrated the sophistication of Red Serpent Coalition planning. They've been positioning assets for over 3 years. Sleeper agents in government positions, weapons caches hidden throughout urban areas, and communication networks that bypass all conventional monitoring. Your capture of their operational intelligence has given us our first complete picture of their capabilities. But the intelligence breakthrough came with an immediate tactical problem. The Red Serpent Coalition had realized their communications had been compromised and were rapidly shifting to backup protocols that would make tracking much more difficult. Every day of delay allowed their network to adapt and continue operations, using methods that remained hidden from investigation. General Martinez, we need your assessment of options for disrupting their operations before they complete their adaptation, Director Ross requested. Your tactical experience with their methods makes your input invaluable. Martinez reviewed the intelligence displays while considering the operational challenges of targeting such a distributed network. Conventional military operations were designed for engaging concentrated enemy forces, not hunting dispersed cells operating in urban environments across multiple countries. The key vulnerability is coordination, Martinez concluded after studying the network analysis. They need communication between cells to execute synchronized operations. If we can disrupt their ability to coordinate, we can force them to operate independently, which makes them much easier to eliminate. Her analysis sparked immediate interest from the assembled intelligence officials. Dr. Foster leaned forward, requesting elaboration on Martinez's tactical assessment. "Explain your reasoning, General. How do we exploit this vulnerability?" Martinez moved to the holographic display, using her tactical experience to identify patterns that intelligence analysts might miss. Look at their communication protocols. Every major operation requires confirmation from at least 3 different command nodes. If we eliminate key communication hubs simultaneously, we create coordination failure that cascades throughout their network. The strategy Martinez proposed was audacious in scope: simultaneous operations against Red Serpent Coalition communication centers across 6 different countries, executed with precise timing to prevent adaptation or countermeasures. It would require unprecedented international cooperation and tactical coordination. Director Ross considered the operational requirements before responding. "General, what you're proposing would involve special operations teams from multiple countries, conducting synchronized raids across different time zones. The coordination challenges alone are staggering." But Martinez had spent 3 weeks analyzing the captured intelligence, developing tactical solutions for problems that conventional military thinking couldn't address. Her proposal wasn't just theoretical. She had identified specific targets, calculated timing requirements, and developed contingency plans for various scenarios. "I've prepared detailed operational plans for each target location," Martinez explained while accessing classified files on her tablet. "The key is using their own communication timing against them. They conduct network synchronization at 0300 local time every 72 hours. If we strike during synchronization, we can capture their entire communication archive while preventing network adaptation." The implications of Martinez's strategy began resonating with the assembled officials. By timing operations to coincide with network synchronization, they could simultaneously gather intelligence and disrupt coordination, creating maximum impact with optimal timing. Colonel Patricia Williams from International Operations raised practical concerns about Martinez's proposal. In general, coordinating special operations across 6 countries requires diplomatic authorization that could take weeks to arrange. By then, their network will have adapted to new protocols. Martinez had anticipated this objection and prepared an alternative approach that bypassed traditional diplomatic channels. "Colonel, we don't need formal diplomatic authorization for intelligence sharing and technical assistance. Each target country has existing agreements for counter-terrorism cooperation. We can execute this as an intelligence operation with military support rather than a military operation requiring diplomatic approval." The distinction was crucial for maintaining operational security while enabling rapid execution. Intelligence agencies had broader authority for international cooperation than military commands, allowing faster authorization and reduced political complexity. Dr. Foster began analyzing the practical requirements for implementing Martinez's strategy. "General, you're proposing operations in environments where our teams would have no backup, limited extraction options, and significant risk of international incidents if operations go wrong. What's your assessment of acceptable risk levels?" Martinez's response reflected her understanding that the Red Serpent Coalition's international scope required accepting risks that would be unacceptable for conventional operations. "Dr. Foster, the risk of international incidents pales compared to the risk of allowing their new order protocol to proceed. We're looking at potential governmental collapse across multiple regions if they successfully execute their coordinated attacks." The briefing continued with detailed analysis of each target location, assessment of available assets, and calculation of resource requirements for simultaneous operations. Martinez's proposal required redeploying some of her most skilled personnel to different countries while maintaining operational security that prevented Red Serpent Coalition detection, Captain Chun, who had been instrumental in capturing the original intelligence, raised concerns about maintaining communication security during distributed operations. "General, if we deploy teams to 6 different countries, we'll need encrypted communication that can't be intercepted or jammed." The Red Serpent Coalition has demonstrated sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities. Martinez had already developed solutions for the communication challenges that distributed operations would create. "Captain, we're not using conventional military communications. Each team will use commercial satellite systems with encryption protocols that appear to be standard business traffic. The Red Serpent Coalition monitors military frequencies, but they're not equipped to analyze massive volumes of commercial communication data. The strategy of hiding military communications within commercial data streams was innovative but required sophisticated technical implementation. Martinez's communication specialists would need to develop encoding systems that could maintain security while appearing completely innocuous to electronic surveillance. Staff Sergeant Davis, who had participated in the original Blackwater operation, was assigned to lead one of the international teams targeting Red Serpent Coalition facilities in neighboring countries. Her experience with the enemy's tactical methods made her invaluable for operations in unfamiliar territory. "General, what's our contingency if teams encounter resistance beyond their capability to handle independently?" Davis asked during operational planning sessions. Martinez's contingency planning reflected lessons learned from the Blackwater and Clearwater Valley operations. Each team will have extraction protocols and backup support, but the primary strategy is avoiding direct confrontation. These are intelligence gathering and sabotage operations, not assault missions. If teams encounter significant resistance, they extract immediately and we shift to alternative approaches. The emphasis on intelligence gathering over direct action reflected Martinez's understanding that eliminating the Red Serpent Coalition required dismantling their organizational structure rather than simply eliminating personnel. Capturing their coordination systems would be more valuable than tactical victories against individual cells. 2 weeks into the operational planning phase, Dr. Foster's analysis team made a discovery that changed the entire strategic picture. Deep analysis of captured communication records revealed that the Red Serpent Coalition had been infiltrating governmental positions much more extensively than initially realized. "General Martinez, we've got a serious problem," Dr. Foster announced. During an emergency briefing, cross-referencing communication patterns with personnel records suggests Red Serpent Coalition infiltration of multiple government agencies, including some with access to our operational planning. The security breach meant that conventional operational planning was compromised from the beginning. Any plans developed through normal channels would be known to Red Serpent Coalition operatives before implementation. Martinez needed to develop operational security that prevented infiltrators from accessing mission details. "We're implementing compartmentalized planning," Martinez decided. "No single person outside this room will have access to complete operational details. Each team gets only the information necessary for their specific mission component." The compartmentalized approach required unprecedented operational complexity, but provided security that conventional methods couldn't achieve. Martinez's team leaders would receive their complete mission briefings only hours before execution, preventing advance warning to Red Serpent Coalition infiltrators. Captain Burke, who had been analyzing enemy communication intercepts, reported concerning developments in Red Serpent Coalition activities. "General, they're accelerating their timeline. Intelligence suggests they're moving up their coordinated attacks by several weeks, possibly in response to losing their primary communication hub." The compressed timeline meant that Martinez's counter-operations needed to execute immediately, or risk being too late to prevent Red Serpent Coalition attacks. International coordination that normally required weeks would need to happen in days, Director Ross authorized immediate implementation of Martinez's operational proposal, with modifications that reflected the accelerated timeline and security concerns. General Martinez, you have full authorization for international cover operations. All participating agencies will provide whatever support your teams require. The authorization represented unprecedented authority for a field commander, reflecting both the scope of the Red Serpent Coalition threat and confidence in Martinez's tactical judgment. She would be coordinating special operations across multiple countries with minimal oversight and maximum authority to adapt tactics based on developing situations. Staff Sergeant Williams received an assignment to coordinate the European operations, targeting Red Serpent Coalition communication centers in 3 different countries. Her mission required coordinating with local security services while maintaining operational security that prevented intelligence leaks. General European operations present unique challenges because of population density and security surveillance. Williams reported during final mission briefings. Our teams will be operating in urban environments where any unusual activity attracts immediate attention. Martinez's European strategy involved using the urban environment as camouflage rather than avoiding it. Williams' teams would pose as commercial technical specialists conducting routine equipment maintenance, allowing them to access Red Serpent Coalition facilities without attracting surveillance attention. The final operational briefing took place in a secure facility where electronic surveillance was impossible and access was limited to essential personnel. Martinez addressed her team leaders who would be deploying to different countries within hours. You're not just disrupting their communications, Martinez explained. You're dismantling an international network that threatens democratic government across multiple regions. The intelligence you gather will be used to eliminate Red Serpent Coalition operations for years to come. The operations began at precisely 03:30 local time across 6 different time zones, with teams executing synchronized raids on communication facilities while Red Serpent Coalition networks were conducting their regular synchronization protocols. Martinez coordinated from Central Command, monitoring all operations simultaneously while prepared to adapt tactics based on developing situations. Within the first hour, teams reported successful penetration of target facilities and capture of communication equipment that contained complete archives of Red Serpent Coalition coordination data. The intelligence windfall exceeded even optimistic projections, providing details of operations that extended far beyond their initial assessment. But success came with immediate tactical challenges as Red Serpent Coalition cells realized their network had been compromised and began executing emergency protocols designed for exactly this scenario. Martinez watched the real-time tactical display as emergency alerts flooded in from across the region. The synchronized raids had been too successful by capturing the Red Serpent Coalition's complete communication archives. Her teams had triggered their ultimate contingency protocol. Every sleeper cell, every hidden operative, every prepared attack was being activated simultaneously in a desperate final gambit. General, we've got confirmed attacks on 17 targets across 4 countries, Captain Chun reported, her voice strained from coordinating responses to multiple crisis situations. They're hitting power grids, communication towers, and government facilities. This isn't their original plan, this is their scorched earth option. The intelligence Martinez had captured revealed the true horror of what they were facing. Rather than accept defeat, the Red Serpent Coalition was executing Protocol Zero, a suicide strategy designed to cause maximum chaos, even if it destroyed their own organization in the process. Dr. Foster's voice came through the secure communication system from the European Operations Center. General Martinez, our analysis suggests they're targeting critical infrastructure to create cascading failures. If they succeed in taking down the primary power distribution network, We're looking at months of recovery time and potential societal collapse. Martinez realized that her tactical brilliance had inadvertently triggered the most dangerous scenario possible. By successfully dismantling their coordination network, she had forced them into a corner where their only remaining option was mutually assured destruction. All teams, shift to emergency containment protocols, Martinez ordered. We're no longer hunting their network. We're racing to prevent catastrophic infrastructure damage. Staff Sergeant Williams, operating in the European theater, reported the most immediate threat. Wolverine actual. Enemy operatives have seized control of the regional power distribution facility. They've got explosive charges placed throughout the complex. If they detonate, half the continent loses power. The tactical problem was unprecedented. Martinez needed to coordinate simultaneous counter-terrorism operations across multiple continents while preventing attacks that could cripple entire regions. Her forces were already deployed and engaged, but the scope of Protocol Zero exceeded anything they had prepared for. Captain Burke, monitoring intelligence feeds from all operational areas, identified the key to stopping the cascade. General, there's a pattern to their target selection. They're not just attacking randomly, they're creating specific failure sequences that amplify each other. If we can stop the primary nodes, we can prevent the cascade effect. Martinez studied Burke's analysis, recognizing another layer of Red Serpent Coalition sophistication. Even their desperation move was carefully calculated to maximize damage through strategic targeting rather than random destruction. Identify the primary nodes, Martinez ordered. All teams redirect to infrastructure protection. We stop the cascade or we lose everything. The race against time became a battle of coordination versus chaos. Martinez's distributed teams had to shift from offensive intelligence gathering operations to defensive infrastructure protection, while Red Serpent Coalition operatives executed suicide attacks designed to cause maximum systematic damage. Staff Sergeant Davis, leading operations in the southeastern region, encountered the tactical challenge that defined Protocol Zero. Wolverine actual. Enemy operatives aren't trying to escape. They're fighting to the death to complete their sabotage missions. These aren't normal tactics. They're fighting like they've got nothing left to lose. The psychological shift in Red Serpent Coalition operatives created new tactical challenges. Martinez's forces had trained for engaging enemies who wanted to survive their missions. Protocol Zero operatives were fighting with the desperation of cornered animals, making them far more dangerous in close-quarters combat. Martinez made a strategic decision that reflected her understanding of asymmetric warfare principles. Instead of trying to engage every Red Serpent Coalition operative directly, she focused her forces on protecting the infrastructure systems they were trying to destroy. All units, defensive positions around primary targets, Martinez commanded. Let them come to us. We control the ground they need to reach. The strategy transformed chaotic multi-front battles into manageable defensive operations where Martinez's superior training and coordination could be decisive. By forcing Red Serpent Coalition operatives to attack fortified positions, she negated their desperation advantage while maximizing her tactical superiority. The climactic engagement occurred at the Central Power Distribution Facility, where a dozen Red Serpent Coalition operatives had barricaded themselves with enough explosives to cripple power distribution across 3 states. Staff Sergeant Cole, who had been Martinez's most reliable marksman throughout the entire campaign, found herself leading the assault on the most critical target. Wolverine actual. Phantom 3 has visual on the facility, Cole reported. Estimated 12 hostiles, unknown explosive placement. They've got excellent defensive positions and nothing to lose. Martinez realized that conventional assault tactics wouldn't work against operatives prepared to die for their mission. The solution required the same tactical innovation that had characterized her entire campaign against the Red Serpent Coalition. Phantom 3. Execute precision disruption, Martinez ordered. Target their coordination, not their positions. Cole's approach exemplified Martinez's tactical philosophy. Instead of trying to eliminate every enemy operative, she focused on disrupting their ability to coordinate the complex explosive sequence needed to destroy the facility. Precision shots eliminated communication equipment and key personnel while avoiding triggers that might detonate explosives prematurely. The psychological impact on the remaining operatives was immediate. Stripped of coordination and leadership, they began making tactical mistakes that exposed them to systematic elimination by cold precision marksmanship. Within 30 minutes, the facility was secured with minimal damage to critical infrastructure. Similar successes at other primary nodes broke the cascade effect that Protocol Zero had been designed to create. As the sun rose over the operations center, Martinez received confirmation that the Red Serpent Coalition's final gambit had been defeated. Their network was destroyed, their leadership eliminated, and their ability to threaten regional stability permanently ended. General Martinez, Director Ross announced, preliminary assessment indicates you've prevented what analysts estimate would have been the worst infrastructure attack in modern history. The cascading failures they planned could have affected 50 million people. Martinez looked at the tactical displays showing the extent of Red Serpent Coalition operations that had been dismantled over the past month. From the initial ambush at Blackwater to the final infrastructure protection battles, her forces had systematically eliminated a threat that could have destabilized governments across multiple continents. All teams consolidate positions and prepare for intelligence exploitation, Martinez ordered. We've stopped their attacks, but we need to make sure we've captured everything necessary to prevent their network from regenerating. The intelligence exploitation phase revealed the full scope of what had been prevented. Red Serpent Coalition archives contained detailed plans for operations extending years into the future, including infiltration of educational systems, manipulation of economic markets, and gradual replacement of democratic institutions with their authoritarian structure. Captain Chun's final intelligence briefing painted a picture of a threat that had been far more extensive than anyone had initially realized. General, based on captured communications, they were approximately 18 months away from having sufficient infiltration to execute governmental takeover without requiring military action. Your operations at Blackwater disrupted their timeline. At the critical moment, Martinez understood that luck had played as much of a role as tactical skill in preventing catastrophe. If the Red Serpent Coalition had maintained operational security for another year and a half, their infiltration would have been too extensive to counter through conventional military operations. 3 months after the final Protocol Zero engagements, Martinez stood in the same briefing room where the campaign had begun, but now addressing international security officials rather than regional commanders. Her tactical innovations had been studied, analyzed, and incorporated into counterterrorism doctrine across multiple countries. General Martinez, announced the Secretary of International Security, your operational methods have fundamentally changed how we approach distributed network threats. The techniques you developed for coordinating precision operations across multiple theaters are being implemented by security services worldwide. But Martinez's most significant contribution wasn't tactical innovation. It was demonstrating that complex international threats could be defeated through strategic thinking, tactical flexibility, and the courage to make difficult decisions. Under pressure, the Red Serpent Coalition succeeded because they thought beyond conventional military engagement, Martinez explained to the assembled officials. Defeating them required thinking beyond conventional military responses. Future threats will require the same adaptability and strategic vision. As Martinez prepared for her next assignment, she reflected on the campaign that had begun with what appeared to be a simple ambush in an abandoned industrial complex. Her willingness to see beyond immediate tactical concerns had prevented catastrophic attacks that could have changed the course of history. The title, Ghostmaker, had taken on new meaning throughout the campaign. Martinez hadn't just eliminated enemy forces. She had made an entire international network disappear, leaving behind only intelligence that would protect democratic institutions for years to come. Years later, when military historians analyzed the Red Serpent Coalition campaign, they would identify Martinez's tactical decisions at Blackwater as the pivotal moment when a regional insurgency's transformation into an international threat was permanently prevented. Her legacy would be measured not in battles won, but in catastrophes prevented and freedoms preserved. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.